Call for Action with News 3 Now gives Southern Wisconsin residents a voice larger than their own when they encounter problems with businesses, government agencies, and other organizations. Trained volunteers at the station serve as advocates, answering phone calls from consumers and offering them guidance on how to solve their problems for around 8 years now. I'm joined here today by Barb Clark and Jackie Falk. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
Current and former leaders of the organization. Getting started here, tell me a little bit about when Call for Action started.
Well, Call for Action nationally has been around since 1963. And the main office is in Maryland, right outside of DC. And there's a board of directors. Lots of businesses support us. We had a lot. We used to have, pre-COVID, we used to have conferences every year, and we've learned many, many things from the FCC, government agencies that came in. So it's just been an organization that's designed to give people a voice that really wouldn't have a voice because we're connected with people like you, like WISC TV, which has been really supportive of our program. And I did this, my whole tenure at Call for Action was 15 years, at which point I said, Jackie, how about you take over? And she did.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have both of you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, specifically here at the station, what makes this specific chapter so special?
Well, when I took it over, there was no such thing as a call-in. I decided we were going to have a call-in, and I'm so happy that Jackie's continuing that. It's really helpful. You reach a completely different demographic because normally we're open during midday, and we did have a lot of calls from senior citizens. If it's a 4 to 7 or a 4 to 8, you get a different demographic with different issues. So it's people's inability to really get through with any kind of poomph, so to speak, to businesses and have them listen. But when we're behind it, it makes an impact. It makes a difference. And we didn't, and we still don't, I imagine. Jackie can confirm this, but just do consumer issues. During Act 10, for example, we had a lot of people who had lost jobs that called in wanting to know where the food pantries were, and they needed help with housing and rent. During the pandemic, some of us worked from home, and I was one of them. We used our own phones. We probably were not supposed to, but we did. And we were getting questions like, from UPS drivers, like, I don't have masks, I don't have hand sanitizer, my boss isn't providing me with the things that I need to keep safe, and I'm a frontline worker. So it's kind of changed depending on what's going on in the world. And then originally it was just everybody just took the case that they got when they answered the phone, and I changed that a little and decided we have so many people here with so many diverse talents. We had public health nurses and teachers and engineers and all sorts of things that when a particular case came in, I assigned it then to the person with the most expertise in that area, and that really made a difference.
Speaking of those volunteers that you're talking about, Jackie, tell me about the current staff that we have and the type of volunteers that we have answering these calls.
We've got a great staff of volunteers, and some of them have been with us for less than a year. Others have been with us for 9 or 10 years or more. They come from all walks of life, as Barb was saying, so they bring a lot of different experience with them. They're passionate about what they do. They really, really love helping people. Giving them that voice that's bigger than their own. And we constantly train too. We do training in-house and have experts come in and train us a couple of times a year. So we're trying to do our best for the people.
Yeah. So when people make these calls to these team members, what are the best ways to make sure that their case is fully understood and that they can get help from our team here? That can be for both of you.
People can call in and talk to a volunteer about their case, or they can go to channel3000.com and submit a complaint online. Even if they do it online, we do it on a one-on-one basis. We have conversations with them and fully understand the situation. Sometimes we need to get some paperwork, some receipts or something. We want to know what they've done to help themselves first. We never make any decisions, but we help to mediate.
Right, and everything is confidential. They know that, you know, it's confidential. Nobody speaks outside of call for action about their cases to other people. And I think that's very helpful for people. Some people are very embarrassed, especially with the scams, which are just pervasive, and the different kinds of scams. And some people just feel just mortified that they've fallen victim to this. But it happens, and it's happening more and more, and I'm sure you're seeing even different kinds of scams than when I was here, you know, recently. And so I think one of the things that really was important to me was that call for action educates the public. And as a former teacher in the Madison schools myself, I find that so important, because the more the cases come to us and you air them, the more people learn, and they learn how to avoid the mistakes that maybe other people have inadvertently made.
Not only are you hearing these complaints and taking action, you're also getting results for a lot of people. Tell me a little bit about what it looks like, you know, when an actual volunteer is calling these businesses, government agencies, and how it actually works to get people what they need.
I'll take that. Yeah, it varies. You know, sometimes it's a matter of a few dollars that someone didn't get a discount they were supposed to at a grocery store. Other times it's thousands of dollars that someone is scammed out of by a contractor or something. We had a case that started a couple of years ago. There was one contractor who was doing wrong to a lot of people. We saw the cases start building. We took those to the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, who was also hearing from people. It went there to the FTC and the FBI, and the contractors, all of them involved, are sitting in jail now.
Wow. So, I mean, what does that say, you think, about the work that they're doing, that there's this actual results? You know?
It's rewarding.
It's rewarding, and the case that she's referring to, the cases she's referring to, had been going on for a few years, and you know, people saw on this station what we were doing, and then more calls started coming in, and we actually had one volunteer who started a spreadsheet. There were so many. But it's a way to let other people in the community know how they can get help too. And but there are all sorts of cases. I remember years ago when I had a woman who had bariatric surgery, and they messed it up, and she had to have it done again, and they wanted her to pay for the second surgery because it was not covered by insurance. And I fought for probably 9 months for that woman. Finally, they acquiesced, and the hospital paid for those fees. So it's everything from that to, you know, there's small little things that people, you know, you'd get calls and you can't do something about, you know, I don't like this particular politician, or I think this law should be changed, and then you can educate them about how to go about doing that as a private citizen, but that wasn't a call for action kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's educating people too.
Yeah. I want to bring up back what you said, talking about people when they get embarrassed about these kind of things. I think in my 2 years covering these kinds of stories, that's something that everyone says to me is like, they start to have regrets, they say what they should have done, and they're telling me all this as I talk and tell their story. But it really, some of these things are things that could happen to anyone, and that's almost what's most important about this work, right? You think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they are victims.
Yeah.
Yeah.